Hello, yellers! Welcome back to Why Am I Yelling? Musings from a middle-aged menopausal mom. I'm your host, Krista Rizzo, believer in holiday magic. Remind me to tell you about Christmas. It is a real thing. A supporter of early holiday decorating. My tree and lights are up, but everything else happens the day after Thanksgiving. And the life coach who understands all too well that stress and grief are highly prevalent during this time of year. So giving yourself grace is essential. And today, that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about something that hits every single one of us at some point during the holiday season, and that is holiday stress. Not the cute kind, where you burn the cookies or forget to move that elf on the shelf. And I have to say, we did that for 2 years, and we quit while we were ahead. Right? I'm talking about the real stuff, the emotional overload, the family dynamics that most of the time or a lot of time come into play, the wild expectations that we put on ourselves, the pressure to make memories. And for so many of us who are now in this stage of midlife that we are in, there is an added responsibility of caring for aging parents while trying to keep our own shit together. Also, the other potential add-in, which is coming soon, is navigating our older kids wanting to make different plans for themselves during the holiday season. How dare they do that? So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh my God, Krista, I am already tired. I feel you. I am with you. I have been through it. I go through it every year, even though I have tools that I'm going to share with you today on how to try to minimize that. But I have got you, so we're going to get into it. And today in our Are You Kidding Me segment, we're talking about what holiday stress actually looks like in midlife, right? Holidays hit differently when you're in your 40s and your 50s, right? You're not just managing your household. You are the emotional cruise director for multiple generations, as we like to say. I like to call myself a cruise director, even though I do not love a cruise. Here's what holiday stress often looks like. Shopping for gifts, hosting parties and people or whatever you're doing, juggling schedules, and still doing your actual job. Nothing goes away in real life. You just add to it during these last 6 weeks of the year, right? Meanwhile, if you are caregiving in midlife, your parents need more help. Or whoever you're caregiving for, right? Maybe it is getting them to their doctor's appointments or their hair appointments, or it's managing their medications, or it's navigating a cognitive decline or an illness or a health issue somewhere, or it's trying to convince them that, nope, that's not where that goes, Dad, or the ladder in the garage is not where we're putting the lights this year, or whatever it is, right? There's a lot of extra stuff. And I don't remember that being the case when I was a kid, right? My grandparents were around for quite a long time. Most of them were into their 80s when they passed away. I think my one grandfather was 67, the other one was 79, and both of my grandmothers lived into their 80s or early 80s. None of them ever needed to be caregiven, except, my dad's mom moved in with my mother and father probably a year or two after my grandfather died, and lived with them until she died. But she wasn't in a cognitive decline. She was getting slower. She couldn't drive. She never drove for herself. She was a New York City lady, and she never drove. My grandfather always drove everywhere. So it was easier for my parents to have her live with them, especially since my brother and I were then at that point out of the house. We had moved out. We were college, after college, all the things, right? So we've never had to deal with any kind of, caregiving in the sense of, taking care of our parents with medication and driving them to appointments. I mean, sometimes, yes, I guess my brother did in Florida, but my mother was very mobile and active. So it wasn't often that had to happen. I think it's important to recognize that there are people that go through very significant caregiving phases, right? Their parents are in cognitive decline. There's an illness involved. My dad was on dialysis for a long time, but he also managed that himself for the most part, and didn't really require a lot of help with that. But that's a big deal, right? So that's one, facet of this, right? Dealing with your parents. And then let's not forget that we have kids and they still need things, right? My oldest will be 20 next week. Happy birthday to him. My youngest will be 14 in February, so he's pretty self-sufficient, but he still can't drive yet, right? So they need rides and money and emotional support. And that's, the midlife thing, right? When your kids and your parents somehow need you at the same time. Your parents are regressing and your kids aren't, but they're still, in there. And it's called a caregiver sandwich. That's what you are. You are the middle of the caregiver sandwich. They are the bread and you are the middle. And we are holding all of that stuff together, right? It's hard, right? Because we're going through not only stress, but we don't think about this. I was talking to my colleague about this earlier today, in fact. Grief hits us during the holidays, and doesn't necessarily have to be the loss of a loved one, right? We could be missing people that are no longer with us. I have grief during the holidays, especially because it was a big deal to my parents when they were both alive. They hosted the big Christmas Eve. They had people in their house all the time. There was always, moving around in our home. And that's how I celebrate my holidays. We host them. I host a big Christmas Eve now. The dynamic has changed a bit, right? Because just geography and all the things that my parents are no longer here, we have to take into consideration. But grief pops in at the fact that they are no longer with us. But, nostalgia, changing family traditions, being menopausal helps, right? Those are all things that can make it feel like we are fighting for our lives during the holiday season, right? We're dealing with new stuff, old stuff, body stuff, all the things that are happening to us women during menopause. And we're being asked to step up, all while still trying to just manage the things that we manage on an everyday basis, for the other 10 months out of the year, right? Holidays are 2 months long. They start on Halloween and they end on New Year. So it's really all of November and all of December, no matter how you slice it, right? The holiday decorations are up in the store before Halloween even happens. It's like society and, consumerism wants us to start buying all the things on January 1st for next year. Keep your holiday lights up all year round, everybody. It's all going to be fine. So no wonder why that makes us feel overwhelmed. It's not that you're weak, you are normal, right? You're a normal human trying to get through every single day that you normally get through for 300 and however many days of the year, 30, and the last 35 of them or more are harder because you've got logistics and things that are happening in your dynamic that are stressful, right? So let's talk first about how we care for aging parents during the holidays. If you are caregiving right now, there are multiple things that make this season more difficult. One is increased needs, right? It's our aging parents or whoever you are caregiving for require more attention. And if you live in cold weather states like I do, where the snow falls, right? It's schlepping your parents around because you don't want them to drive on the icy roads. It is, figuring out how to travel. It's figuring out logistics on how to get them to family gatherings, how to get you to family gatherings, how to incorporate all of these things together. Number 2 is emotional whiplash. Seeing your parents age hits very differently during the holidays when you are surrounded by memories of who they used to be. That hit me after my father passed away. My dad died 4 years before my mother died. And when that happened, I immediately took the reins of the holidays and brought my mother up north with us to celebrate the holidays with us. My kids were getting older. Prior to that, we had always taken the family to Florida and we'd had it down there. The kids were getting older. It just felt like it was time for us to transition to me taking over the Christmas Eve tradition and doing it with friends up here and family up here, and letting my kids have their holidays in their own home, because they hadn't really had that for the first, I don't know, 10 or so years of their lives. My oldest anyway. My little guy I think was 5. So right around there. When we brought my mom up here into the north, into my new family traditions, and started creating those family traditions, it was lovely to bring her into that fold, and all of my friends and everybody who celebrated the holidays with us happily did that. But it was, hard for me and hard for her too, to kind of look back on the memories that we had created for so many years with so much beautiful tradition. And so there's a difficulty sometimes in trying to navigate those feelings and being open to creating these new traditions and new memories, which are just as lovely and beautiful. Doesn't mean the old ones didn't matter, right? Because a lot of aging people live in their past. They live in their memories. It is what keeps them going, quite frankly, right? So that whiplash for us as, the middle-aged hormonal children of them is difficult because we're watching them sit in their nostalgia, and then we are trying to move them forward into our own stuff. Number 3, the frustration/guilt cycle. That lives, right? We have so much on our plates as human beings every single day, just by, our responsibilities for our houses and our lives and our kids and our schedules and our jobs and all that stuff. Add in aging parents. It is normal to think things like, oh my God, why are you being so difficult? Oh my God, why do I have to do this? Oh my God, this is ridiculous. And being short with them, because our patience wanes thin. It gets stretched. And then, as soon as you think those thoughts, the, intrusive, oh my gosh, you're a pain in my ass thoughts, you're immediately followed up with, oh my God, I am a terrible daughter or son or whatever, because they're getting older. I should be kinder. I should be grateful that I have this time with them, and I should have all those things. And while yes to both of those things is true, this is where grace has to come in, right? We have to give ourselves grace in times of overwhelm and stress, and understand that just because we're doing these things and it's nice for us to do them, and we're stepping up into the role of child and daughter and son, or whatever it is that we're stepping into that role of, it doesn't mean it's not stressful for us. And it doesn't mean that we don't need a way to alleviate that stress. So it's perfectly normal to be like, oh, I don't want to be doing this. And then thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. This is my mom or my dad, and I should want to be taking care of them. Give yourself some grace on that, right? It's okay to have those feelings, and it's okay to recognize those feelings. You need to make sure that you're recognizing them too. Number 4, family roles don't magically change, right? You might be 52, I'll be 53 next week, and still the designated responsible one, or the fixer, quote unquote. Your holiday gift is unpaid labor, my friend, right? Here is the truth. Caregiving is love. Caregiving is hard. And caregiving does not have to take you out emotionally, even though it kind of will, right? But you don't have to let it creep in to all of the places and consume you if you know how to recognize how to address it. And we're going to talk about that in a minute in the tips and tools section. But we still have to talk about when your adult children want to make new plans. This one literally tugs at my heartstrings, because I know that I am on the cusp of this at some point. It's not here yet unless he comes home over Thanksgiving and drops a bomb on us. But right now, everything is status quo, is what it feels like. I often find myself creating ways for him to uh, escape or suggest things if he wants to go and spend time with friends or his girlfriend or their family because they live, in a different state than we do. And so, and they're 2 hours away from us. It's not like they're so far, 2.5 hours or something, right? But I do often find myself saying, well, it would be cool if you want to go see, your friends or your girlfriend, that you come home for a couple of days and then go to the next place or go there and kind of split the time. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But, I'm doing that to kind of alleviate the blow that is going to come to me, regardless of when he says, I want to make my own plans, right? This is another level of stress, right? It hits us deep because it's our children. And I remember being that kid when I moved to New York from Florida after, I had moved down there with my parents when I was in seventh grade, and I lived there through high school, and moved back there for a couple of years after college, and then decided, nope, that's not for me. I need to be back in the bright lights of New York, and moved back here 30 years ago. It was a long time ago. So I remember having to deal with my mom's grief about me moving, up here and not being with them for every single holiday, for every Mother's Day, we went back for every Christmas just about, but I wasn't there for Thanksgiving because of it. And that's when my birthday typically is, right? So, when your kids are making their own plans, you are immediately thinking about, oh my gosh, how is this going to affect our house, right? Nobody tells us when we become mothers and fathers, parents, that it comes with some plot twists that are going to literally wrench our guts and feel like an appendage is being pulled off of our body. Nobody tells us that. Because if they did tell you the truth, you might not want to do it. Right? You realize that at some point you went from being the center of their universe, your children, to not. And for a lot of people, that's a very hard pill to swallow, for a lot of parents. Knowing how to deal with that is important because this is normal. It is still painful. I'm validating that for you. I'm acknowledging that for you. But it is very normal. You can be thrilled. I am thrilled. I say this to my friends all the time. I've, friends who had kids go off to college after my kid went to college, and they reached out and said, how did you do it? Because it is literally ripping me apart. And I said, two things can be true at the same time. You can be wildly proud and excited and thrilled and joyful that you have succeeded as a parent and your child has succeeded up to this point to want to flee the coop, right? To be grown and flown and get out there and start their own lives. And at the same time, you can be gutted at the fact that they are choosing this path and not choosing the path of staying in their bed and you bubble wrapping them with bubble wrap and letting them stay with you for the rest of their lives. Right? Hearing the words, hey mom, we're actually going to do this year. They're coming at some point. I think it's inevitable. Hopefully, in some way, there might be some kind of way to infuse the two of them. But we're going to talk about that in just a second because that does sting, and I want to make sure that we are acknowledging that sting is valid, right? It is love mixed with change and transition, and it is called the emotional cocktail of midlife. Just another one. Just another one. But here's the thing. What do we do with that? Right? We let ourselves feel disappointed. I think it's important for us to sit in our feelings, right? We shouldn't feel guilty about feeling disappointed. You're allowed to want them to come home. You are allowed to be sad. You are allowed to feel nostalgic about memories that you thought, quote unquote, there's those expectations that we like to set, a lot of high expectations that we thought were going to be the case that end up not being the case, but you're allowed to feel that nostalgia. Totally normal. Don't make it personal. Their plans are about their season of life, not a rejection of you. Oftentimes, in my own case, I can say this because I know this is true. Every time I had an opposing plan to what my mother thought I should have, I know that she felt like we were rejecting her. And that's not the case. The case was we wanted to make memories for our own family. The case was you are more than welcome to join us here because this is where we're going to do it. But for now, this is where we're going to be. That's not to say we wouldn't come back to them because we were there a couple of times a year for many, many years, right? Celebrating events and situations and making memories with them. But they oftentimes, and I will say it too, maybe I'm going to feel that way too when it happens to me, will feel rejected because, oh my gosh, they know how great it is here. Right? It's so great coming home and being with your family, being with your mom, making dinners for you and doing your laundry, doing all the things. But they want to try new things. It is logistics. It is adulthood. It is growth. It is not abandonment. They are not abandoning you. Unless, of course, you have a completely different dynamic and that's a completely different conversation, right? Have an honest conversation about how you're feeling, right? I totally understand your plans. I am proud of you for wanting to create your own traditions. I just want you to know that I'm going to miss you because I love spending time with you and I love having you be here. It's clean, it's kind, and there's no guilt grenade there. It's not like, oh, I wish you would be doing this. I wish you would be doing that. You're hurting my feelings because try to, and it's very difficult for Italian moms like me, because I was brought up with the guilt. And so guilt lives inside of me until the end of my days, I'm sure, about a lot of, things around tradition and expectation and all that kind of stuff. And I've had to learn how to step back from that in my own parenting journey because I don't want my kids to feel like they don't have a choice. I want them to know that they always have a choice. And it's okay. I'm not going to love it, but it's okay if they don't choose me. It's okay. I get it. It's not about me, right? It's never going to be about me. It's about what they want for their futures. And if they want to include us in it, great. We'll be more than happy to do that, right? So try and find a happy medium between the guilt and, the joy and the allowance of them to build their lives. Next up, create flexible family time, right? Maybe you reinvent your holidays, right? If you're splitting time between your child's new in-laws and you guys, maybe you do Christmas Eve at one house and Christmas Day at the other house. Or if you live in two different polar opposite places like my parents did from my in-laws, you split holidays. You do Thanksgiving at one and Christmas at the other. Or you do, my mom used to do this with our family in Florida when she started coming up north. She would have Christmas with them a few days or a week before Christmas. And that would be their Christmas and they would celebrate their Christmas. And then she would be up in the Northeast at my house for Christmas Day and those holidays, right? So creating new traditions can be helpful, right? Maybe doing a brunch or hosting a movie night or, a celebration in January when everyone is kind of mellowed out and chilled out and you can have just a less stressful, more casual kind of experience for all of you. And maybe that becomes your new tradition. Finally, let this chapter be about your growth too. If your kids aren't home, you get to say things to yourself like, what do I want this holiday to feel like now for me? What brings me and my partner, my husband, my wife, my spouse, my whoever you're celebrating with joy? What new traditions can I create for myself? Right? It is not about the end of family holidays. It's about evolving your holidays. And yes, you are more than equipped to handle that. For years, we would go away for Thanksgiving. I love the idea of being in a tropical place for Thanksgiving. We've been to Mexico a few times. We've been on a cruise. We like to do trips. We're not going away this year. I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year. But I'm a big fan of those kinds of things. Travel during the holidays seems like a fun idea to me. And maybe one day that's something that we will pick back up on, or once my children have decided where they want to be, we'll kind of adjust it to look that way. And I kind of am not I don't want to sound like, oh my God, I'm so excited because I don't like what I do. I love what I do. I love hosting people. I love having friends and family in for the holidays. I love that more than life itself. You can ask my husband, right? I throw up holidays. It doesn't matter what holiday it is. It could be, a Tuesday afternoon birthday brunch. It doesn't matter. It's a big deal to me for whoever it is. And so I will miss that, but I also look forward to potentially creating new traditions and new memories, especially if it's involving my family and potentially my family friends, my friends who are like my family, that kind of thing. So here are some tips. I've got a few tips, 7 tips. Sorry, I have it all written down in front of me, to help us figure out how to manage not only the caregiving situation that we have with our parents going on, but with potentially our older kids wanting to make different choices for their holidays. Number 1 is lower the bar and then lower it again, right? You do not need to recreate childhood holidays. Traditions evolve, right? If you are in a caregiving or a transition season, pick one tradition to keep and then simplify everything else. It doesn't have to be baking the cookies and making the lasagna and setting the table and decorating the tree and making the gingerbread houses. Pick one and move on with that one, or rotate every year to a different tradition to kind of keep them all alive. Number 2, especially with your parents and if they're aging, create micro moments instead of major moments, right? Small moments are better than big picture productions, right? It's the little minutes that you get. It's the small, quality over quantity is what I like to say, right? So making sure that you are invested in your time and you are present and you are engaged, even if it's just a 20-minute conversation that you had in the car, is better than being in a room full of people trying to quote unquote create a memory that maybe this person who is, getting older isn't going to remember. So think about that before you do all those things, creating micro moments instead of big picture things. Number 3, set boundaries before the holiday hits. This will help you protect your energy. It will help you communicate these things clearly and early. And things I like to say to my clients, no is a complete sentence. It also is a word that you can use during the holidays. I can't make it. No, thank you. No. You don't have to no but, no and, no anything. No. Right? All of those things are okay. Creating boundaries is essential. It's essential for you to help manage that stress, but it's also essential for your people to understand what is actually happening and where they're standing or what's going on. Number 4, share the load. Don't do all the things all the time, all yourself. I am the guiltiest person. I'm holding 2 hands up. I am the guiltiest person when it comes to that. I do all the stuff. And we're hosting my in-laws for Thanksgiving. My husband's parents are coming. His sister and her new boyfriend are coming. We're super excited to have everybody over. But I said to my husband this morning as he was walking out the door to go to the city to go to work, I was like, I have a laundry list of things that have to get done this weekend that we've been kind of ignoring and avoiding that have to get done. So nobody come crying to me when I'm getting everybody out of bed and making you all get up and put clothes on and go outside and blow the leaves off the driveway and put the boat in the garage and, clean up the back deck from the summer. We still have lawn furniture out there that needs to be moved, stuff like that. You are not meant to carry every emotional and logistical responsibility alone. Share the load. Number 5, reframe the season. Instead of saying, I just have to get through this, and we are all guilty of saying those things. I literally just said it the other day to my husband. I just have to get through X, Y, and Z to make it to Thanksgiving. I bit my tongue after I said it because I knew that wasn't how I wanted to go into this holiday season. I don't want to go into this holiday season with anticipated stress and grief. I want to go into this holiday season with optimism and joy and gratitude, right? So instead of saying things like, I have to get through this, try, I get to shape what this season looks like based on who I am right now. I get to shape what this season looks like based on who I am right now. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago. You are not the same person you are going to be next year. Things are going to happen in our lives. Stuff is going to change. That is the one thing we can count on. So shape your moments, your season for right now, where you are right now. Number 6, build in buffer time. Schedule time to rest. Plan a day of nothing after you have major gatherings, right? Plan a day to give yourself space to decompress. I have friends who are like all in during the holidays. The week between Christmas and New Year's is like somebody's family is hosting this, somebody's family is hosting that, and that can feel overwhelming. It's super fun, especially with the kids, because they are like, oh, we're going to see our friends and we're this and we're that. We're schlepping to people's houses and we're always busy, always busy. But it is exhausting for the old people. And by old people, I mean me, right? So knowing when to say no is a full sentence, complete sentence during the holidays too. But also maybe saying, hey, I'm just going to drop my kid off for a few hours and I'll join you guys later for the rest of it. Right? Or I'm not available tonight. I'm going to experience the joy of missing out instead of the fear of missing out. Right? Build in buffer time. Go get a manicure. Go take a walk with the dog. Go do something that is going to give you some rejuvenation time. It's perfectly okay. And finally, the 7th tip is feel your feelings. You are allowed to feel your feels. Right? You're allowed to feel sad. You are allowed to be relieved sometimes, right? Because sometimes you feel guilty for feeling relieved. No, you're allowed to feel relieved. You're allowed to be overwhelmed and grateful. Again, two conflicting things can be happening at the same time. You can feel overwhelmed and grateful. Oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I have so much planning to do, but I'm so grateful everybody is coming. And that's the truth. I have lists out the wazoo for the next 5 days before everybody gets here next Wednesday, right? That is what life looks like, right? Welcome to midlife. Your emotional buffet is fully stocked, is what I like to say, right? It is okay to feel your feelings. So how are we going to reframe this moment? First of all, there's no such thing as perfect, right? And the holidays are not meant to be perfect. They are meant to be human. We are meant to have interaction. We are meant to get tired and overwhelmed and love people deeply and imperfectly. We are allowed to change. Our families are going to change. Our traditions are going to change. Acknowledging that and validating that and feeling your feelings into that can be very helpful in how you process the choices that you are going to make going forward from this holiday season or through this holiday season. Give yourself permission to be present over perfect. Because again, perfect doesn't exist. Full stop. All right. That's it for today's episode. If it resonated with you, please share it with a friend, share it out on social media. Whoever you think needs to hear this. I have some friends who had DM'd me after I did an Instagram story the other day about caregiving during the holidays, and they were like, please talk about this, please talk about this. So here I am talking about it for 35 minutes. You are doing better than you think. You are not alone. And if you need to yell, laugh, cry, or all three at the same time sometimes, don't worry. I've got a mic and a menopause moment waiting just for you. I also have a PSA for you. I made the decision that this episode right here is the last podcast for Why Am I Yelling for 2025. I'm going to take the last few weeks of this year to learn more about podcasting, producing and editing and the stuff that goes into the back end of this, because it's just me. And I haven't had time to really do that. I just wanted to get this out here and put it out into the earth. So unless the earth shatters, which you never know, it might actually happen, right? You're not going to hear from me on this platform, but I will be on Instagram with some reels and some stories. So if you don't follow me there, head over to Instagram at Why Am I Yelling Pod for holiday shenanigans, because I definitely post during the holidays. I post a story every day, and I will have stuff, I'll share some of these tips in things like that on my page. So follow me there. But this has been just a project that I thought of middle of the year and wanted to do, and I kind of threw it out there to see if it would stick to the wall. And every week I am pleasantly surprised because I have more listeners every week. So thank you for sharing this. And my Christmas gift wish is for you to share more with the community and give it out to the community so they can hear these words and maybe something will resonate with them. I am so grateful for you all for listening and watching and supporting, and for making my year brighter, because it hasn't been the easiest year for me. I cannot wait to see what 2026 has in store for all of us. And so I am wishing you a happy everything and peace in the new year. I love you guys. Thanks. Mwah.